Then you have this. Like, what do you see in Wentz?
It's hot and cold, but same thing I said last week. Let's be fair to Dak. Let's be fair to Carson. Yeah. He needs his wide receiver back. He needs Deshaun Jackson back, and they need their left tackle back, Jason Peters. He's an absolute stud. So without those two pieces, it's making life very difficult on him. And when you can silo him in the pocket, keep him in the pocket, and make him beat you without all of his weapons, that is a lonely place to be. That's a tough place for him.
And so looking back, they need to get back to running the football. That's when they were the most successful. They've got a trio of pretty good running backs. Their offensive line is solid. If they can pound the football, you don't have to put it on Carson Wentz to go out there and win these games. He's a talented young quarterback, but as John pointed out, those guys are apt to make mistakes, especially when you put them in critical situations where the defense can manipulate what's going on in a third and long.
This is a team that I think if they miss the playoffs, it's going to be one of the true disappointments of this NFL season. And we ran through the FPI. Do you think the Eagles are a playoff team?
I don't believe they are, because I think Dallas ends up winning the division. I see the NFC East as a division that only gets one team in due to the strength of the rest of the NFC. I mean, if they win 9 games, they're probably not going to make it.
Yeah, I agree with you. The playoffs are going to be away from the Philadelphia Eagles this year. But going back to one of the points about the quarterbacks, we don't give this much leeway for some of the older quarterbacks. We give a lot of leeway for the Carson Wentzes of the world, Dak Prescotts of the world. But we've seen when other quarterbacks had injured players, they still performed and were expected to perform. So if you're getting paid as such, then you should perform as such.
I absolutely agree with that. I'm just saying those guys have been doing it for a lot longer. They have more reps at being the guy to boost everybody else instead of playing with the star-studded cast and just being the point guard. Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, those guys, they know how to do it by themselves. And when I say by themselves, they're so on schedule that the other guys have to catch up to them. It's still, Carson's never done that before. He's done it in spurts, but not consistently like those guys.
Understood. The reality of it, however, is fair or unfair.
Right.
When you get paid like that,
no doubt.
People are going to expect you to do
it.
You can't get paid over $100 million and say, well, I need other people to help me win football games.
And they also traded away Nick Foles. And so he's always going to be compared to the efficiency in the pocket of what Foles gives you.
Okay. And then I want to get to this, because it's a big weekend for Bill Belichick in at least one way. I guess in many ways. But when you start talking about the greatest coaches in NFL history, one place you start is Don Shula, the Hall of Famer. He was at 33 years as a head coach, primarily with Miami, won their only 2 Super Bowl trophies. He won 328 games, most ever. Let's talk about George Halas, the Papa Bear, coached 40 years for the Bears, won 6 NFL championships, won 318 games, so he's 10 behind Shula. And then there's Bill Belichick, 6 Super Bowls, 266 regular season wins. But if you include the playoffs, and Bill Belichick, if he wins this weekend, will become the 3rd coach to win 300 NFL games. Again, including the playoffs, this would be his 300th win. And I wanted to bring RJ into the conversation so we could sort of set up this conversation. If you were to ask who is the greatest coach in any time frame, I guess ever, if you want to put it that way, is the answer Bill Belichick? Because I will go first. My answer is yes, for a variety of reasons, based upon how hard it is to maintain success in that sport relative to others, how long he has maintained it through different iterations of the team in a free agent era, which George Halas and Don Shula did not coach in, and the value of the coach in football relative to other sports. If you said, I have to name the greatest coach in the history of American team professional sports, I would say Bill Belichick.
I would agree.
I think you have to agree. And the reason why, to me, you mentioned the iterations of players and being able to select and kind of build the team 3 times. But he's one of the few coaches I know that can do it on the offensive side of the ball and then can also do it on the defensive side of the ball, which is where he came up. And the way that teams are constructed now in the NFL, what's the recipe? Draft a young quarterback, throw them out on the field, and then build around them while they're still cheap. You know what Bill Belichick does to young quarterbacks? You know what he does to Josh Allen? You know what he does to Daniel Jones, Samuel Jones? 10 interceptions with those guys. Like, the new formula is to build a team like that, and Bill Belichick is just going to pour water all over that methodology.
Sanchez, you went up against him as a young player and an older player. I mean,
Are you seeing ghosts?
I don't want to say I was seeing ghosts because that's not good to say.
But you saw ghosts.
But we played him my 2nd week as a rookie. We win at home. I'm feeling good. We go up there later in the year, November, whatever it is. And he gives us a false game plan. I'm thinking, oh, look at this. I'm completing balls the other team. I think I put Lee Bodden in the Pro Bowl that year. But nice tackle, too. Really, Hembo? so he gives us the first 3-4 series, really that first quarter. He's giving us the same game plan from game 1. And I'm like, oh, baby, here we go. We're going to torch these dudes. I got their number. Let's do this. quarter 2, quarter 3, I'm seeing defenses that I'd never seen. I thought we were playing against 15 guys on the field. I'm like, what the heck is going on out there? It was embarrassing, but it's him. It's really him.
RJ, I wanted to get you in this conversation too, to bring basketball into it. How if you were to name the best basketball coach, who would you say?
Well, look, Phil Jackson is one of those guys that everyone talks about because the number Red Auerbach, but I think the league was a little bit different. You could be dominant for longer. But again, Greg Popovich and what he's done, and very similar to Belichick, where it's like you have different iterations of their team. He had the Twin Towers early on, and then the consistency in which they've done it. 20-plus years in the postseason. Tim Duncan, the development. No, you should not show any clips for me with the Spurs. But it's just the development of the talent that he's done over the years. That's something that has been so impressive, and they've changed how they've won over multiple years.
Popovich and Belichick strike me as similar personality-wise too. There's just a
well, they view themselves. They view themselves.
Because I think that the general thinking on both of them is you go there because you're going to win, but it's not a lot of fun.
Not a lot of fun. No. And it's even when you're winning, it's not a lot of fun.
It seems so warm and fuzzy, though.
No,
they had the mantra "no days off" after winning a Super Bowl and hoisting a Lombardi. Like, it doesn't even make sense. The Victory Monday was out in New England. That doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, and they chanted. The fans in New England chanted "no days off" at a parade that every one of them had taken the day off to attend. There's probably nothing better than that. But again, our vote goes to Belichick. This Sunday, he could win, and I think he will win his 300th game. Meanwhile, let me get up and go here, RJ. Trae Young scored 38 points in his season debut as the Hawks won in Detroit. Is he the next superstar?
I think so. He is such a dynamic player. He's one, and when I say superstar, he's a guy that people want to go see play. I think people will buy tickets to see Trae Young. He shoots from anywhere. He gets other players involved. A lot of people have been comparing him to a Steph Curry. I think he's closer to Steve Nash with the way he assists the ball. And look at that. From anywhere. From anywhere. And this is who he's been and who I think he's going to be for a long time.
Next up here, last year's #1 overall pick, DeAndre Ayton, suspended 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug policy, testing positive for a diuretic. RJ, what's the reaction?
Well, it's confusing. I woke up, I read this. Again, he's an Arizona kid, so followed his career. I think he's going to be a great player for a long time, but this is really, really confusing. You see this every now and then. When once every 2 years, a guy just gets suspended and you just have a lot of questions.
Yeah, and the Players Association says it will defend him. We'll see where that winds up. Let's stay classy there, Zlatan. Finally, SMU, number 16 in the country, staying unbeaten. Xavier Jones ran for 133 yards. They beat Houston 34-31. Bobby, they're one of 10 unbeatens. How good are they?
Probably around the 15th best team in the country. I mean, I don't even know if they're quite the best in their own conference yet, but they heck of a job last night. The battle for Texas, they apparently won it, at least in the AAC.
They are fired up right now in Dallas. Tomorrow, meanwhile, we have a college football doubleheader coming your way. It'll be on the ACC network, and you can see it all on the ESPN app. Virginia takes on Louisville, 3:30 Eastern. Then number 4, Clemson hosts Boston College in Death Valley. It's our ACC network primetime matchup presented by Geico. Meanwhile, we have a lot left to do here. Coming up, a whole new meaning to the term family feud. Why in the world is boxer Shakur Stevenson fighting his girlfriend's brother? We will ask him when he joins us. Also ahead, he can ruin an unbeaten season in a flash. How do the 49ers stop Christian McCaffrey? We'll talk about that after someone tries to answer this. Sanchez, I'm told this one's for you. Who is the only quarterback with a longer active losing streak than Cam Newton's 8?
Better not be me.
Is it Mark Sanchez? If the answer is Sanchez, this will be his last Friday appearance. We'll find out next on Get Up.